The inadequate or poor quality of transport infrastructure, especially rural infrastructure, continues to be one of the bottlenecks for Nigeria's development. This has led to dire economic consequences as well as social problems, such as the lack of access to hospitals, declining enrollment in schools, and increased intercommunal tensions. In spite of the oil, agriculture remains the base of the Nigerian economy, providing the main source of livelihood for most Nigerians. With about 34 million hectares of arable land, the sector accounts for 22% of GDP, employs 70% of the labor force, and produces 90% of Nigeria's food. Although a large number of Nigeria's farmers live and work in the rural areas, poor rural roads undermine their profitability and impede their access to markets, inputs, equipment, new technology, and ultimately, a better life. Konanyaji, a small agrarian community in Adamawa State, is home to many farmers whose main crop is groundnuts. And considering the large quantity of groundnuts produced here, one would assume that the farmers of Konanyaji make a decent income from their farms. But sadly, bad roads have made it near impossible for these farmers to take their produce to the market to sell. This situation is the same in many rural communities across the country.
The challenges they have on this road is the road is so bad, especially during the rainy season. Going to the market to sell their products is very, very difficult. Also, there are some children also that go to school. They have river crossings along this road, and during the rainy season, some of the children will be cut off from their school. That means if it rains, they will not be able to cross to go to school. So it's actually impacting on their lives.
Apart from the economic impact of poor road access on the people of Konanyaji, the situation has also resulted in near-death experiences for many inhabitants of the community.
Gaskiya hanyar mun nan yana da damuwa. In za a je asibiti ga yaro ba lafiya amma yanda hanya ba kyau har sanadiyan yanda hanya ba kyau har wayansu ma yana kawo ga mace-macen yara tun ba a iso asibiti ba hanya ba yanda yake. In ana haifuwa in za a kawo mace zuwa asibiti hanyar din ba yanda yake. Ni ma na haifu a hanya sanadiyan yanda hanyar yana ta jijjiga ni. Wannan yarinya ne da ina zuwa za mu je asibiti sai na haifu a hanyar sabon jijjigan hanya yanda yayi yawa.
For many years, farmers in Igbajo have been struggling to eke out a living, largely due to the fact that their roads are barely motorable. Yes, they work hard, from dawn to dusk, and their fields yield good harvest, but they hardly make good profit because the bulk of their return is spent transporting the harvest to the market.
Ọrọ̀ ajé pọ̀ níbí ló jẹ́ wípé ọjà wà, ọrọ̀ ajé wà, kòkó, ẹ̀gẹ́, gbogbo ẹ̀, ṣùgbọ́n ìṣòro tá ní níbí ni wípé kò sí bá ṣe fẹ́ kó délé, kò sí bá ṣe fẹ́ kó dégboro.
Ó dí ìgbé ayé wa lọ́wọ́ púpọ̀ jù torí pé àwọn ọmọ wa Ìgbàjọ náà ti ń lọ iléèwé. Wọn ráyè lọ níbí àní iléèwé tó yẹ kán máa lọ. Gbogbo nǹkan wọ̀nyí ni ó jẹ́ ìṣòro fún wa jù. A sì ń fẹ́ kí ìjọba kó ràn wá lọ́wọ́ kán bá wa ṣe gbogbo ètò kó dúró dáa.
To address the challenges of road access faced by rural farmers and dwellers across Nigeria, the federal government, with the support of the World Bank and the French Development Agency AFD, initiated the second Rural Access and Mobility Project RAMP 2, with the objective of improving transport conditions and bringing sustained access to rural populations in Nigeria.
RAMP, Rural Access and Mobility Project, is a concept of the federal government where the government develop a policy for bringing development to the rural communities. So when the government was putting up that policy, they called development partners like the World Bank, EU, and African Development Bank to come and support in developing the policy. And when the policy was finally rectified by the government, it came to a point of implementation. And in that wise, they need funds to implement the policy. They also need international best practices to ensure that people get the benefits of the policy. And that's where the discussion started. And both the World Bank and French Development Agency now give some money to government, and we come in partnership to intervene in the states.
In 2013, RAMP 2 became effective in the 4 states of Adamawa, Enugu, Niger, and Osun states, after being piloted earlier in Kaduna under RAMP 1. The project is centered around 3 key components: upgrading and rehabilitation of rural transport infrastructure, community-based road maintenance and annual mechanized maintenance, which would help to address sustainability of the interventions, and strengthening of state and federal road sector institutional, policy and regulatory framework. This component aims at helping to address institutional capacity gaps at the state level with regard to rural road assets management, as well as at developing and implementing sound rural transport policies. These key components, coordinated at the federal level by the Federal Project Management Unit (FPMU), with implementation at the state level by respective state project implementation units, SPIUs of the 4 participating states, are focused on the improvement of road access and poverty reduction in various rural communities across the country.
Over the years now, we have made a lot of achievement in terms of rural road construction under this project, and it has impacted positively on the lives of the communities where these projects are being implemented. Like if you talk of bringing electricity to communities, without road you cannot do that. You want to carry agricultural input to the farmers that are there, without road you cannot do it. Even water. So road is a cross-cutting issue, infrastructure that you cannot do without it. Once you fix roads for rural communities, you have done almost all what it takes for them to transform their own life in the rural areas.
7 years after its introduction, RAMP has changed the stories of several rural communities across the country for the better. Communities like Idiaho, Nekembogodo Abaobolo Etiti Road, Kuta Cattle Market, and Doko Village that were once ghost towns have been completely revamped through the RAMP project.
The improvement of this road has brought about life into the market. As you can see, both left and right of the market, there is life. People are coming from all walks of life. Their economic livelihood has gone beyond what it was before.
Ọjà wa gan àti ń gbé lọ s'Óṣogbo tó ṣe pé ń tà ní 1,000 ń ti ń di bí 5,000 tá ń tà. Ó mú wípé ní tó bá ṣe wípé ní ó bá rẹ̀yàn gan kíákíá wọ́n ti mú a lọ sí ilé ìwòsàn tó ṣe wípé ní àlàáfíà sì ti ń dé bá wa lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀.
Ihe na-aga nwayọọ nwayọọ now. Eda anyị na-eri ngote na akpa onwụsakwa na nre dekwe na nkata nrekwe ndị ihe dị iche Dubai now.
From St. Mary's Ngwo to Nsude, you'll be shocked that this is the first time since the creation of the state that this kind of access is being created to them. You find out that most of them coming from Ngwo to Onisha or coming from Ngwo to Nsude, they no longer take the 9-mile corner because this is shorter. We believe that in most of these communities where these roads are domiciled, the life of the communities have changed tremendously. There is improved business activity on this road.
During the rehabilitation of these roads, a few houses and agricultural produce or economic trees were affected as a result of the road expansions. However, as per donor-funded project standards, anyone affected has to be duly compensated for whatever losses incurred. Mrs. Janet Namono, a widow from Nekembu community, is an example of such policy. During the construction of Nekembu Ogodo Aba Obole Etiti Road, her house was one of those that had to be demolished. And for a brief moment, it seemed like all was lost, but not for long, because today, Mrs. Janet Namono now has a modern 4-bedroom bungalow to her name, thanks to the Enugu State Government and Enugu Ramp. Ramp 2 also comes with significant social benefits. The linking up of several communities and improving intercommunal relationships is leading to a higher degree of social well-being. With this intervention, access to education and health facilities have improved in different rural communities. Children that would ordinarily be in the farms are now eager and excited to come to school and learn because the road access to their school is now better.
We have more enrollment than before. When we look at the new construction of the road, the turning up of the pupils are more better than before. It encourages them because the way they saw cars passing, it attracts them. You see, if they saw cars, they will be running here, there. That attracts them. So you can see the turning up of the pupils are more better than before.
Community-based road maintenance and annual mechanized maintenance is a major component of Ramp 2, where the members of the benefiting communities themselves are directly involved in maintaining the rehabilitated roads, giving them a stronger sense of ownership and participation. This has also created job opportunities and additional income for locals in these rural areas.
After intervention, improvement of our road, we witnessed massive traffic on some of these roads. And because there's heavy traffic, it also accounts for gradual deterioration of the infrastructure. We engaged members of the community that live along the corridor of our roads. We identified them, we trained them, they are well equipped, and they carry out routine maintenance of this road. They all have their own scope of work.
Da muka fara aiki, mun fara aiki ne 2018 a cikin wannan ramp. Yanda muka fara aikin nan mun ji daɗi da aikin nan da na shiga. A gaskiya kamar yanda na fara aikin nan aka biya ni, gaskiya na samu amfanin ta, musamman lokacin damina. Salin da aka biya ni sun samu kuɗi in siya magani in yi feshi a cikin gona. Sannan kuma in rashin lafiya ya zama na ina samu kuɗi a wajen ina biya bukata domin jinyan iyalina.
With the success recorded by the Nigerian government alongside the World Bank and the French Development Agency, more than 6 million rural people now have access to an all-season road. Also, over 1,427,000 people have directly benefited from the project across the states, and half of these beneficiaries were women.
Ina zuwa kasuwa na samu riba yanzu, wannan jin daɗi, na ji daɗi yanzu saboda ina samu kuɗi, ina biya wa yara makaranta kuɗin makaranta.
Since ha kwara ụzọ ebe abịa mepe ọfụma. Business na-aga because ihe anyị mee kịta ebe ihe ndị shafafa place na-agafe ebe a ndo ha na-emekwa anyị na-atụgharị aka. But oge izizi ebe a dịka ọchịchịrị.
Part of the aims of the project is to connect key areas of agricultural production of high-value crops to processing centers and markets or consumption areas. Thanks to the Ramp 2 initiative, almost 6 million rural people now have access to an all-season road. Some of the immediate results of the project include a reduction in transport cost by 40%, a drop in agriculture post-harvest loss by 28%, and the provision of employment for over 2,000 men and women located around the project areas.
To me, that is a very wonderful achievement, and I think if we can be able to replicate this across the state, I think the pace of agriculture and also the pace of the living of the rural population will change for the better.
In addition, more than 1,630 kilometers of rural roads have been rehabilitated to date in the 4 participating states, exceeding the initial target of 1,450 kilometers, while another 596 kilometers are under rehabilitation. 829 kilometers of these receive efficient permanent routine maintenance. In addition, 74 river crossings have been constructed, exceeding the initial target of 65, which will continue to provide all-weather access for the people of the participating states. A key theme of the Ramp 2 success story is capacity strengthening and the support in setting up institutions that will manage these rural roads. Since most ramp roads are unpaved and would require regular maintenance even after the project ends, the project is working with governments both at the federal and state levels to establish sustainable funding known as the State Road Fund to finance the maintenance of the constructed rural roads, plus a dedicated agency to manage the rural roads. These efforts are at different stages of execution across the states, and if incorporated into the government's policy framework, would ensure that the gains of Ramp 2 are sustained for the long term, both economically and socially.
We've been able to carry the Ramp team, bring them to bear on the needs of the state government. And that has made it possible for state government to promptly, at all times, pay the state counterpart funds. And these state counterparts are essentially used for the project management cost of the project, which include taxes, compensations, and administrative expenses. So it's one of the ways that we've used to collaborate with them so that the project can get on successfully. What you will expect in the next 5 years is a viable rural economy, and that will lay less emphasis on migration to the cities. You can see a family in their home having their farm and knowing that as soon as their produce comes out, they are earning, they are living from that. And of course, inter-local government roads, access roads, link roads to various communities, and is an open-ended benefit. Because once you have these roads, every other infrastructure follows it.
Ramp rehabilitated roads are engineered using the Low Volume Road Design Manual, the Low Volume Maintenance Manual, and the Low Volume Road Technical Specifications, all of which were designed locally and have been regarded by experts as a model for rural roads construction across Nigeria. Today, rural dwellers like Yakubu Jauro, who could not take his cattle for grazing because of a treacherous river crossing, can now do so due to a new river crossing constructed by the Ramp project in his community. Hafsat Jubril, who could not go to the market to sell her goods due to bad roads, can now easily go to the market, sell her goods, and return home to her family on time. And Bakari Akani can now easily transport his farm produce to the market since the intervention of Ramp in his community.
It was just like a dream. I did not believe them. Many promises has been made. None was satisfied. But now, if you call somebody from even Nsukka to come and buy fish, he will come. If you carry your product to that riverside, the product has gone to the market. There's no doubt about it. But formally, your product can be there. And nobody will agree to follow, because if the person bought that product, no way to carry it. It's only God that can thank the Ramp, because we are in cage in the previous years. But now we are from hell to heaven.
Nígbà tá a gbọ́ pé wọ́n máa ṣe ọ̀nà ń bí, àwọn èèyàn lára wa gan ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ń sọ pé nígbà tí ìjọba tí ìgboro wà tí wọ́n ṣe inú igbó ìnáwó àṣẹ ẹyẹ tanra yín kò pọ́síbù nírú bíi ọlọ́pẹ́ sọ́dẹ̀ ó dùn.
Ọjọ́ yẹn jẹ́ Sunday, ọjọ́ tá a dédé gbọ́ gbúrúrú níjọ́sìn yẹn tí kàkà bẹ̀rẹ̀ sẹ́, we are very very happy ní wàá dùn gan.
With Ramp 2 coming to an end, we should be thinking of another project for these states. We have an instrument in the bank that evaluates what we did in any project. We come back after 6 months, we come back after 1 year, we come back after 2 years. It's okay. What are you doing? some of the concepts that were put there? Do you still have the institution? Do you still have those roads? Are you still maintaining it? So based on that, we'll be able to advise the government, and we'll be able to input some of this lesson learned in subsequent projects.
These testimonies are but a few of millions from rural dwellers whose lives, businesses and economies have been transformed thanks to the interventions of RAMP in their respective communities.